Okay, JC, imagine we're sat at Fancourt in February and I asked you what your goals are for this year. What would you have said to me?
Pretty much exactly where we are today. I think it's been a better season than I could have wished for. I felt like I had a tough season last year, and to come out early in the start of the season with 2 wins and back it up with some decent play towards the end of the season is I mean, there's nothing much you can ask for more than that.
Just looking at those two wins because they came so early in the season, you couldn't have imagined a better start. Did you? Obviously, it's a bit of a weird time for you South African guys because it's sort of in the middle of your or towards the end of your season. Did you feel that coming into the Challenge Tour year, that sort of game and that play that you displayed?
I feel like having the events at that time of the year for me sort of suited my my form. I've always tended to play well back home from Jan to March. Like that's sort of where I played. I sort of trained my way to sort of peak at that time because we always used to have co-sanctioned events, and most of our summer events were that time to finish high up on the order of merit. You needed to play well that time, and it really benefited me that we had the Challenge Tour events in that space. So I wasn't surprised that I played well in those events. It's also golf courses that I like that are regular events, like regular venues for us in the Sunshine Tour. But it was a surprise because I had a rough season the year before.
I remember interviewing you after you won in Cape Town, and you were quite emotional. How much did
Yeah.
that victory mean to you?
Cape Town, well, the first Cape Town was 2 years ago, or last year was huge. Again, had a rough season. Things weren't really going my way, and that win sort of put me back on track to feel like I could get my DP card. And then at the start of the season, both those wins, especially Cape Town, was big for me. Didn't have any form at all. I wasn't really playing nice golf. We'd just come out of a holiday, so wasn't really sure where my game was at. And I don't think I was mentally ready to grind out a full season on the Challenge Tour. And the two wins sort of just cemented the spot at the top of the board for long enough so that I could keep working on my game, keep preparing so that I'll be ready for next year.
People often say that when you win, it's difficult to then back it up the following week. What did you do to get that second win, and did you think you could do that?
I've made the mistake a couple of times after winning to celebrate a little bit too hard, and it took me a while to learn that it destroys your game. Well, for me it does. I cannot perform if I've partied the night after winning, and luckily that night in Cape Town we won, rushed to get to the airport, flew to Durban, and I don't even think we had a drink. I think I had a milkshake at the airport, flew to Durban, just had another, like, back into a regular week as if nothing happened. And it was a strange experience because Cape Town, I really didn't have much of a game. It was just a fighting, grinding week, sort of forcing the ball to go in the hole somehow, or willing it in. And Durban turned out to be the complete opposite. It was probably the best ball striking event of my life. It's probably the closest I've ever been to having a full A game at an event, and the scoring showed.
Yeah, it was an absolutely emphatic victory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were almost like in a flow state? You were walking up to the ball, hitting it, and you just knew exactly where you were going to put it?
A little bit, yeah. I think there was a lot of hard work the 2 years before that went in, that sort of all just came together that week. I was slowly building towards form up to that week. Cape Town, like I said, didn't have much form. There wasn't much good golf there, but there was a lot of grinding, and that sort of helped me get into the right mental space so that when my game eventually arrived, my mental space was so clear that I felt like, I kept saying that week, I felt like I was asleep all week. I don't feel like I remembered much. I would sort of just wake up after a round and sign for a score, and I felt like, what the hell, I can't remember anything. So yeah, it was a special week.
After those two victories, was that third win on your mind going straight up to the DP World Tour?
Yes, my original planning for the schedule was I would play Dardata, Cape Town and Durban, and then take Bloemfontein off, so that I'd at least have 1 week break, because we had the co-sanctioned events up after the Challenge Tour stretch. And after winning those two, I said, you can't win 3 in a row if you don't play 3 in a row. So I think a little bit to my detriment, went and played Bloemfontein. It had a decent week, but I think it cost me up later in the season with the DP co-sanctioned events. Ended up not playing well. I think it was 9 or 10 events that I'd played in a row, so I was quite knackered and tired after that, and took me 2 or 3 months after that with some hard work to recover and get back into form.
Those victories obviously gave you a lot of freedom to go and play where you wanted, pretty much.
Yeah.
What was the decision like for you to go and play a lot of main tour events as opposed to Challenge Tour events?
I think it was exactly that. We had, I think there were those five co-sanctioned events with the Challenge Tour, and I played those, and I think 6 or 7 more main tour events. And like you said, that was mostly the intention, was to try and almost secure a better card, feeling that I'd already sort of secured the Challenge Tour card, and unfortunately didn't have much form playing in those events. Still had quite a lot of things to work out, and yeah.
You didn't have, like, as you say, your A game in those events, but
Yeah.
8th at the British Masters, getting those experiences, how much does that help you looking ahead to next year when you've got a full card?
A lot. One of the things as well why we decided to play a couple more DP events was just to learn most of the golf courses, just so that my first season playing let's say a full season, that I'm not playing 20 new golf courses, where luckily, like the Belfry I've been to twice and had a couple of good events there, and Celtic Manor and so on. So at least I'll be familiar at some of the golf courses next year.
Your wins have all obviously come back home in South Africa. Do you almost feel like you've got something to prove in Europe? Not saying you do, because your results are pretty decent
Yeah.
in Europe, but without having that W over here, have you got something to prove, do you think?
I feel to myself, yeah, I feel like definitely have something to prove here. I know my game's really good at home. I know the golf course is really well at home, and I think the biggest thing that I felt like I've needed to learn was to play off the grass in Europe, where a lot of the Europeans struggle when they come to South Africa with the Kikuyu. For me, I've had to learn and teach myself to play here, so I feel like it's been quite a big learning experience for me to come from home with quite a lot of form and play here and feel like I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So I felt like I've had a lot to learn here. I felt like I've come a long way, and yeah, I think the win's not too far away.
I was going to ask you about the grass, because everybody always talks about Europeans going to South Africa and struggling, but how much of a struggle is it for you guys coming over here and learning the different conditions?
For me, I felt like it was really tough. I have quite a specific short game technique that I feel like that makes me really good on Kikuyu back home. But because my technique is a certain way to be really good at home, that technique does not work here. So I've had to learn to become just an average chipper when I've been to Europe. So it's been a 3 or 4 year process for me to actually become really good at chipping in Europe. So for me it's been quite a tough experience. Most guys, I think, that have sort of textbook technique don't find it too tough. They find it pretty normal actually coming over here. But for me, it was quite the experience.
You're number 2 on the rankings going into this final event of the season. What would it mean to be in that number 1 spot this week?
Wow, it'd be everything to me. I've had quite a bit of success on the Challenge Tour. I've won 4 events. Got unlucky with the COVID year, not being able to travel, and last year winning another one and winning 2 this year. So I feel like I deserve my spot here. I feel like
Do you feel like if you were the first South African to top the rankings, would it almost be becoming a trailblazer for people back home to show that you can come over here and do it?
100%. That would be great. I think it would be great for South African golf. I think we have wonderful players back home, and for a long time I felt like it's just been really difficult for South Africans to step out and go to Q School and get their cards and sort of be successful, where now with having a small foot in the door with Challenge Tour and having steps to climb is a huge opportunity for South Africans.
And finally, if you reflect on your year, how would you summarise it?
A scary roller coaster. The highest of highs, some of the lowest of lows, and all come back down to just a nice view and calmness towards the end.